All right, this is biology 21.3, cylindrids and sponges. Yeah, fun stuff, right? All right, so we're still talking about different kinds of invertebrates, and these mean hollow intestine. That's what cylindrid means, is hollow intestines. And this would be jellyfish, sea anemones, corals, hydras. This makes me want to watch Nemo. You guys know I love Nemo. And these have something called cnidocytes, and that is stinging cells. All right, so of course, when you think of that, sea anemones and jellyfish. And so cylindrids have stinging cells called cnidocytes. Not all of them possess that, but a lot of them do. So most of them have a polyp form and a medusa form. The polyp form is cylindrical bodies. They're smaller, of course, and they're sessile, not moving. They have a mouth that kind of faces upward. Excuse me. So then the food can kind of come down in there. And then you have the medusa. The medusa is a free-swimming, umbrella-shaped body that's mouth is facing downward, and the stinging tentacles come, into play there. All right, so let's talk about the first kind. It's called a hydra, and Hydra, not the bad group, from whatever that show is. But anyways, Hydra is a small freshwater cylindrid of the polyp form, and its body has a little round base, and it kind of comes up, and it's got all these little tentacles that kind of come out. You can see it on page 435, but the cool thing about a Hydra is it somersaults to move. So basically, you can see it on page 435. Make sure you look at it because it's really neat. And if you look up on YouTube, and I'll try to put it on the ones that'll help the other videos that'll get you through the week or whatever on my channel. You can find them. They're basically, you just put in hydra somersaulting or hydra movement or something like that, and it basically is almost microscopic, so it's not something that we would just see. So you have to kind of know what you're looking for on that. And so you can kind of see the development of the hydra there, and then the way it moves on page 435. Then you see jellyfish, and make sure you're reading these things. I know a lot of you just want to watch this and look at the answer the questions. Make sure you're reading as you're answering questions and stuff. There's some really interesting things and stuff that I would be talking about if we were in school, so I expect you to be reading. And jellyfish, of course, have the cnidocytes, and they have what they call alternation of generations, which means they have both asexual and sexual reproduction. I want you to read about that on page 436. And so you can kind of see how alternation of generations, we've talked about that before, but it almost is like regular reproduction, and then like a metamorphosis, and then a reproduction into the actual medusa. So like the larva, the polyp, then the medusa kind of idea there. So read about that. That's cool. And you can kind of see how it works on the top of page 436. And then you have sea anemones, and they are the flowers of the ocean. And if you've ever seen, like maybe in a dentist's office or some doctor's office or something somewhere, the actual the actual sea or saltwater tanks, they usually have these in them. They can be up to 2 feet across in the ocean, and so they're really beautiful. And you can see those on page 437. And let's see here, corals. Corals are colonial cylindrids, which means they live in colonies, and then they have a little base cup that they kind of cement themselves to things, and that's made of limestone or calcium carbonate. And they live in these colonies. We call the colonies coral reefs. They're going to grow in warm places where the sea stays above 70 degrees. And of course, the largest one that we know of is the Great Barrier Reef, which is about 50 miles wide and extends for 1,200 miles outside the coast of Australia. So that's kind of awesome. Then you have sponges. All right, it's a little different. It's a different order. There's about 5,000 different species of sponges, and they are sessile, which means not moving. And they are called porifera because that means pore bearers. And if you look at on page 438, you kind of understand why they named it the pore bearer or the sponge there. They're not the only multicellular. They are the only multicellular animals without any type of a nervous system at all. So they don't have a brain, basically. They have an opening or a mouth in the sponge called an osculum, and it's really not a mouth like we think of. It's more of like a pore, and it like brings in the water, and then it also then sends out the excurrent pore, out the waste, and that kind of thing. Water enters the sponge through very small little ostia or incurrent pores as well, and they're located all along the sides of the animal. Um, Sponges, they tend to they were the things that we actually would go and harvest these sponges. They would let them dry out in the sun, and all of the flesh would kind of fall away, and then empty them out. And they would use those as sponges, like body sponges, sponges on the floor. Like Cinderella used one of those, I'm sure. So, anyways, those are why we call sponges sponges. Nowadays, all of our sponges are basically made in the factories, but back in the day, these were actually sponges, and we got the idea of a sponge from the sponge. So, you guys got it now, right? They have two different ways that they can reproduce as well, and I'll let you read that on page 439. And then there's a really small section review for you to do. But make sure that you read about those jellyfish in particular. Have a good day.